briefly the jobs that he actually mentioned. And just in terms of thinking about what the green collar jobs are, he talked about somebody in charge of procurement workers for green jobs. He talked about construction, someone to do the site selection, remediation workers, solar panel installers, landscaping, urban farmers, business owners, entrepreneurs, green event planners, educators, which definitely opens up well, especially for me, my thought process in terms of what an actual green collar job is about. And I think a lot of controversy within this whole green market, green job industry is that unclear exactly what actually makes that green job person. Thank you for giving us that community perspective. Our next presenter is Andrew Kimball. He is the president and CEO of the Brooklyn Navy Yard Development Corporation, which will bring a different perspective in terms from a manufacturing point of view of the green collar job.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Maya. That's a great segue. The kinds of developments that you're undertaking is one of the reasons that we're so optimistic about the future of the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and I think other industrial parks should be optimistic because with building green, you need to locally source a lot of the manufacture of this work. It is very green. You don't have to schlep something from abroad, from the other side of the country, in order to get it to the job site. So there's great synergy between the kind of projects that we're working on. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Navy Yard. The history really feeds into what we are today, the modern sustainable industrial park, but it goes all the way back to 1801 when it was established by the Navy. Peak employment during World War II, 70,000 people came to work there every day. Like many former industrial bases, it was closed in the 60s. To the extent that there were shipbuilding jobs, they moved down south. Slowly over time, two private not-for-profits, now the Brooklyn Navy Yard Development Corporation, have redeveloped the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Our mission is to create industrial jobs. Industrial jobs in an urban area, I would argue, are green inherently because workers don't have to get in a car and drive to some suburban industrial park. They can take mass transit. You are often creating products in those industrial parks to go to the local marketplace. So again, it doesn't have to travel far. You are creating jobs that are living jobs. They tend to be 25% higher in terms of what they pay than service sector jobs, McDonald's, hotels. So if we want to have a sustainable city in the sense of having a strong middle class and opportunities to move up, better public schools, et cetera, you need to have industrial jobs that pay well. Our mission is to maximize revenues achieved, full self-sufficiency, develop underutilized areas of the yard. Basically, we're dealing with 50 years of deferred maintenance since the Navy left, so very little city investment over decades. And now we've really pushed hard in the last few years to become a national model for sustainable industrial parks. We have 4 million square feet on the roof. We've basically been 100% full for 5 years. 40 buildings, 230 tenants, 5,000 people come to work every day. We have an employment center that's placed, we do pre-screening and placement for jobs, 1,000 people in the last 6 years. We're now looking at partnering with job training groups, particularly around green jobs, to expand the opportunities locally as we bring new green jobs online at the Navy Yard. Really what's turned things around, the main things has been city getting serious about dealing with deferred maintenance. So we now are in the midst of investing $200 million in basic infrastructure, water, roads, sewer, piers, and doing everything green we can around those investments, and I'll tell you about that. With the deal with the city that we will figure out a private model primarily to get new buildings up, which is very, very difficult in an industrial context. There's a reason you don't see a lot of industrial buildings getting built anywhere, but we are succeeding in doing that in the Navy Yard. We have done all of this with a major commitment to preservation, which is obviously a core component of sustainability and improving our community presence. We're successful because of the permanency of our zoning. Nobody's going to pull the rug out from under you in the Navy Yard. If you want to invest in your space, you can give a long-term lease. It'll help rationalize those investments. We've got tremendous location and security, real estate taxes, relatively affordable rents, although we're probably at the top of the industrial market in the 5 boroughs. The quality of the space is just a very cool place to come to work every day. All kinds of historic structures, and now all of these green infrastructure investments we're making in a quality local workforce, and tremendous intellectual capital that surrounds the Navy Yard with universities like NYU Poly, with lots of creative folks all throughout Brooklyn, lots of whom are working in the Navy Yard. I mentioned some of the benefits of industrial in the 5 boroughs before. One of the other reasons we've been so successful is we have focused on industrial sectors that make sense to stay in New York City in the long haul. The days of the smokestack are gone. We're focused on commercial artists, artisans, woodworkers, folks building the high-end goods that are going in the homes, many of them using recycled goods, going into green developments like I was talking about. Entertainment, film, and media, a growing sector in the city, a big sector within the Navy Yard now. That is 21st century industrial. You are manufacturing a film, you're manufacturing the post-production, you're manufacturing the set. E-commerce fulfillment, an enormous amount of that. DNA photos, one of the big ones, but we have a number of others. Some warehouse distribution. What's interesting that's happening across each of those sectors now is emerging, some organically, some because we're encouraging it, but green manufacturing, green business practices around all of those sectors. This is just a visual of the yard, 300 acres, it's an enormous amount of space. As I said, 4 million square feet under roof already. There's about 40 acres of developable land. We've planned out almost every square inch, and a lot of that development is happening now. So why did we make a commitment to sustainability in a big way a few years ago? One was it's just smart development in terms of being a good neighbor. We're pressed up against dense urban areas on all sides. We value our relationship with the community greatly in terms of creating local jobs. We want to offset the environmental footprint of all of this new development in Navy Yard as much as possible. You know, one of the worst case examples of what happens when you don't plan for that offset is what has happened at the Hunts Point, where you have enormous emissions coming out of the trucks that come to use that food facility. We want to do everything we can to offset the environmental footprint of our developments. Meet all of the city, state, and federal goals for energy efficiency and the green economy in the future, but we feel like we're already out ahead of the curve. And it helped us enormously to have a mayor talking about things a few years ago, like a 2030 plan. But the great thing about Mayor Bloomberg is they never came to us and said, okay, turn the Navy Yard into a green industrial park. But they gave us the room to be creative and figure out on our own that if we were smart in terms of targeting sectors for the future, we would really focus on green and establishing ourselves as a national model for green industrial parks and the destination of choice for green manufacturing, because this is going to be a growing industrial sector. It's just smart business. So what are some of the highlights? So any new building going up in the yard has to be at least LEED Silver or beyond. So we are just completing the nation's first, multi-story, multi-tenanted green industrial building. It's got the city's first building mounted wind turbines, which you see in the top left-hand corner. We're on track to get LEED Gold. We have 7 other green buildings that are in construction or design, 2 of them that are targeting LEED Platinum. We are adaptively reusing an enormous amount of buildings in the yard, some of which go back to the solar, probably the most sustainable thing that you can do. We are focused on using green technologies in our renovation and maintenance. So as we ripped up all the roads in the Navy Yard, through the capital funding that we got from the city to replace the water and sewer lines, we had to put in new street lamps. So we began studying, would there be a way to do renewable-only street lamps? We tested 3 different versions over 6 months, and it came out that there was a very positive return in year 1 if we went with a product that happened to be designed and manufactured by a Navy Yard tenant, Kimball Ecosystems. He developed a wind-solar street lamp, which is the second picture there, a solar panel over the street light and a vertical wind turbine. If you don't have to put in the conduit on a new road, the piping from pole to pole, and we're installing 91 of these right now, $600,000 in savings. Year 1, boom, got a positive return. And then every year we're saving $11,000 in electricity costs. So this has become a great demonstration for a product that we hope will sell globally. There are a lot of people coming down and looking at it. Manufactured and designed again at the Navy Yard. So Dugal is one of our prime green manufacturers. We've installed some of Brooklyn's first solar-powered trash compactors. That's the 3rd slide down. We're also using recycled railroad ties for bike racks and putting in bike racks throughout the yard to encourage bike use. As we rip up the roads and put in new water and sewer, a real focus on stormwater runoff management. Again, another very simple but ecologically friendly step to take by putting as much greening as possible in. We look very closely at bioswales, and unfortunately, the water table at the Navy Yard, since most of it is landfill, is only 10 feet down, so that didn't work. But we have put in a lot of greening as we redevelop the Navy Yard. Strong encouragement for tenant-business collaboration. A lot of that happens in the Navy Yard already organically. We have pushed that by creating a tenant Sustainability Committee to work with us on our investments, but also generate collaboration. We'll